a hero, nobody can criticize you. Better tell Ollie North that. I don't think he benefited from that standard. Joel Payne worked as an advertising director at Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign and joins us tonight. So, Joel, just as a general matter, do you think you burn in hell if you criticize people in authority?
Oh, no, I don't think so. And listen, I think the big issue here is whether the president has the moral authority to call Jim Comey a liar. I mean, let's be honest. The president has a pretty checkered history when it comes to being honest and telling the truth.
Well, but luckily we don't have to rely on the president for that, and the president's views are immaterial. From my perspective, as an American citizen, I'm really concerned that someone who ran the most powerful law enforcement agency probably in the world, outside of China anyway, with the power to kill people, is so transparently partisan and political. Even if he were on my side, I would be troubled by that. You're not?
Listen, he took some shots at the president, but I mean, let's be honest, the president's been taking shots at him for the last 6 months.
That's true.
He's been taking very personal, direct shots. He's been running an opposition campaign out of the West Wing. So
yes.
I think you have to give Jim Comey a little bit of a pass on.
Well, look, I understand. I mean, I'm just being as honest as I can be. I understand why Comey's annoyed. He got fired. He's been attacked. I get it. But the difference is that Trump is an elected official. He's a politician. We put him there by voting for him, whether you like it or not. It was part of our democratic process. Comey's a bureaucrat. He was appointed. We don't really have any control over what he does or how long he stays. He's not supposed to be political. When Comey was canned, a bunch of FBI officials texted and emailed one another about that, expressing concern about it, but also solidarity with Jim Comey. Those emails were FOIA'd. We now have them. I'm going to put some on the screen here and read them to you. The first is from Renee McDermott, who wrote this. Unexpected news such as this is hard to understand, but I know you all know our director stood for what is right and what is true. Triple exclamation point. He truly made us better than when we needed it most. The next is from David Gelios and says, I hope this is an instance of fake news. The third from Michael DeLeon, who says, and I'm quoting, everyone is surprised and we're certainly disappointed with the events. In an earlier email he wrote, we all feel the pain associated with the loss of a leader who is fully engaged. These are people who are on Comey's side. Comey is now a political figure. If I'm investigated as a U.S. citizen by Renee McDermott and I don't like Comey or I like Trump or I don't like Hillary, why wouldn't I be nervous about that investigation?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, Tucker, these are people who are expressing personal feelings for someone they work very closely with. By the way, you know, let's go back to the Watergate investigation, not Watergate, the Bill Clinton investigation, Ken Starr. Look at the people who were running Ken Starr's investigation. All Republicans, all people who didn't like Bill Clinton. But did that invalidate
I thought we weren't
found?
supposed to be happy with that. Look, these are not politicians.
Sure.
These are FBI agents who run. No, but Comey has put them in an impossible situation. They are now tied to Comey. They are Comey partisans. It's okay to think your boss is great, he got fired, it's sad. I get that.
Sure.
But now that Comey has made himself into a political figure, it besmirches their reputations, and it calls into question the independence of the FBI. That's the point I'm making.
Tucker, what has made Jim Comey into a political figure is the president using him as a whipping boy publicly. That's what's made him into a political figure.
Comey just wrote a book attacking him. Look,
yes, he wrote a book attacking him because the president spent the last 6 months attacking him. Isn't this the president that says, I'm going to punch back? I'm not going to let people take shots at me?
You're absolutely right.
So what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
What I care about is not defending Trump. What I care about is the integrity of our institutions whose employees carry guns and have the right to break my front door down. And the FBI is number one in line on that list.
I understand.
And I am very worried that this is politicizing and, in the eyes of the public, discrediting our main law enforcement operation. And Jim Comey didn't need to write this book. He did it for the money. And he shouldn't. He should be one of the 8 guys in America who takes a pass on the book and takes a pass on the money, because the effect is too damaging.
You know, Tucker, here's what's interesting, though. We've talked here, about 5 minutes? We haven't talked once about the Mueller investigation, which is very legitimate, which is not a witch hunt, which has already had 3 people plead guilty to wrongdoings on the president's campaign: Papadopoulos, Manafort, and Gates. More are coming. Michael Cohen's in a lot of problems.
First of all, how do you know more are coming? If it's entirely legitimate, do you have some inside source there? I mean, what do you know that we don't know of this, quote, legitimate investigation?
Well, I'm doing what everybody else is doing.
So
I'm following the trail.
Because they're leaking details from the investigation to the press. Would a legitimate investigation do that?
So I guess if you don't like leaking, then you don't like Scooter Libby being.
No. I'll tell you what I don't like. What I don't like is in a criminal investigation leaking against the subjects of the investigation. That discredits it. It happens all the time, not just in this one. It's always wrong. And yet the left is enjoying it because it's goring the ox of Trump.
I'm personally not enjoying anything. I don't like the fact that we don't trust our president.
What did you think about his lawyer's office? Talk to 5 lawyers, 3 of whom may hate Trump, and ask them, what do you think of breaking into Michael Cohen's office? I bet all 5, if they're honest, would say, whoa, I hate Trump, but that's too much. That's ridiculous.
I think there's a very high bar to have to do what those agents did, which suggests to me that there's some real stuff that Michael Cohen's out.
Oh, so you're taking that on faith. Should the rest of us take it on faith that the Stormy Daniels affair merits breaking into his personal lawyer's office?
Because the president has been running an opposition campaign against the FBI, now everybody can doubt what the FBI, what happens when they're going out and they're trying to fight terror or they're trying to prevent people from shooting up our streets?
Now we're back to the Jim Himes category. Don't ever question those in authority.
No.
Or else it's your fault.
You're the law and order party. Republicans, conservatives are the law and order people.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to see the former head of the FBI become a political figure and make fun of the president's hands. Like, what does that have to do with anything?
And that's why I don't want the president to use the FBI as a whipping boy so he can distract attention from his own wrongdoing.
But the president's a politician. That's what they do. The head of the FBI shouldn't do that. Are you happy with him mocking Trump's marriage or his hands? What is that?
No, look, that's not what I'm focused on. I'm not focused on what Jim Comey said.
You don't think that discredits the FBI?
I think those are personal observations that he made. I'm more interested in what he talked about in terms of the president being mistruthful and dishonest in some of his conversations with him.
Okay. Well, thank you, Joel, for joining us. I appreciate it. We don't yet agree, but keep coming back. Man of principle, Jim Comey took a shot at the president's marriage during a recent interview because that's, of course, central to the Mueller investigation in Russia. Pardon me. Dan Bongino joins us to discuss that next. Plus, there have been meetings at the White House late into the evening. They're about Syria, and obviously we are ready to bring you any news on that subject as we get it. So keep it right here on Fox.
Something that distracted me because he said, if there's even a 1% chance my wife thinks that's true, that's terrible. I'm a flawed human being, but there's literally 0 chance that my wife would think that was true. So what kind of marriage to what kind of man does your wife think there's only a 99% chance you didn't do that?
Jim Comey is a very good man. He's a very good marriage. He used his interview with George Stephanopoulos to remind the rest of us of that and to weigh in on the health of the president's marriage, because, of course, that's what principled, neutral law enforcement officers are sworn to do. Dan Bongino is an NRA TV contributor, a former Secret Service agent, and he joins us tonight. Dan, the former FBI director, went on to comment on the size of the president's hands, which he checked when he worked for him. You've been in law enforcement a long time. Are these kind of categories that you'd say most FBI agents assess before beginning a job? The health of the boss's marriage, the size of his hands, things like that?
Yeah. Yes, tan lines. Tucker commented on the tan lines around his eyes. That's fascinating. Donald Trump's tan. Tucker, we're talking about the director of the most powerful law enforcement agency possibly in the history of the planet that has the power to take your freedom and take your life. Decisions that can change the world are made every day. And he's commenting on President Trump's tan lines, the size of his hands, and the quality of a marriage he knows nothing about. This guy has entirely beclowned himself, and he is the Kaiser Sose of this movie right now. He plays off as this big innocent white knight. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, he was the guy single-handedly responsible for some of the worst debacles in FBI history in regards to this Obamagate fiasco.
Well, that's I guess the other thing. I mean, I try to be honest. There are a lot of, it's hard because it's such a partisan moment, but you want to be as honest as you can. And I've said a bunch of times on the show, I think you agree. I think this guy really hurt Hillary Clinton's campaign. I'm happy with the outcome, but I think that he behaved in a flaky, bizarre, irresponsible way with Hillary. Where are all the Hillary people, the honest Democrats, to point that out in this moment?
Tucker, politics has clouded this entire conversation. Yeah. I think that's crystal clear. The case against Jim Comey is a clear one. What you said is entirely accurate. Let me just remind people what happened with Jim Comey. These are his own words. They're still on YouTube for you all to see. When Jim Comey was brought up to the Hill and was questioned about the quarterly briefings he was supposed to give Congress as per practice and protocol about sensitive CI investigations. Gee, you think maybe spying on Trump was sensitive? And when he was asked why he didn't notify Congress almost a year, these were quarterly briefings, meaning for the liberals every 3 months, he said, well, we didn't notify you because of the sensitivity of the matter. Tucker, that's the whole point of congressional oversight and a system of checks and balances. That he thought he was running a rogue agency, Jim Comey. The case against him is crystal clear.
I know. I know. And it's what a shame to see it reduced to Trump attacks Comey, Comey attacks Trump. I mean, there are irreplaceable principles at stake here, not having nothing to do with Comey or Trump, but having to do with the ability of citizens to trust law enforcement.
Tucker, the president of the United States, at the time president-elect and a candidate, was spied on by his opposition political. That's not in question. The mechanics of how it happened, we can argue. Jim Comey was the FBI director when that happened, and the information they used to do it has been debunked by every single credible person that looked at it. Is that being lost in this whole story? I mean, it's embarrassing, isn't it?
Well, it's terrifying. And if you told me this 30 years ago, I'd say that, that can't happen. It wouldn't happen here, but it is happening. Dan, thank you for that. And thanks for reminding us of what's at stake.
Yes, sir.